April Fool's Day began in ancient Rome when Emperor Claudius II declared a national day of trickery to confuse the invading enemies. According to legend, Roman citizens were encouraged to play pranks, spread false information, and create fake battle plans to make Rome seem unpredictable. The strategy worked so well that the tradition continued as a yearly celebration of deception, eventually evolving into April 1st, the holiday we know today. April Fools, just kidding. But this video is no joke. Today we will be learning the real reason April Fool's Day exists. We are unpacking one of the most fun and mischievous days of the year, April Fool's Day. Every year on April 1st, people across the world engage in playful pranks, jokes, and harmless tricks. But how did this tradition begin? Why do we celebrate it? And how have the ways we prank one another evolved over time? In this video, I'm going to explore the history of April Fool's Days, its origins, traditions, and how it's celebrated around the world. Stick around for a fun story about my April Fool's Day disaster at the end of this video. Let's get started. The exact origins of April Fool's Day are a bit murky, with several theories surrounding how this day of pranks and jokes came to be. The one that I mentioned earlier in the video is not the true theory. The most widely accepted theory goes back to the 16th century in Europe, particularly France. In 1582, Pope Gregory XIII introduced the Gregorian calendar, which replaced the Julian calendar. Under the Julian calendar, the new year was celebrated around April 1st, but with the change to the Gregorian calendar, the new year moved to January 1st. Some people were slow to adopt the new calendar, either because they were unaware of the change or simply didn't believe in it. These people began to be known as April Fools, since they continued to celebrate the new year in spring, and those who had already adopted the new calendar began to play pranks on them. They would send them on fool's errands, pretend to invite them to parties that didn't exist, or mock them in other ways. The tradition of playing tricks on April 1st began to spread throughout Europe, and over time, it became widely recognized as a day for pranks. Another theory suggests that April Fool's Day has ties to ancient Roman festivals. The Romans celebrated a festival called Hilaria, which took place at the end of March. During this time, people would dress up in disguises, play tricks on one another, and engage in festive, playful activities. This celebration, which honored the arrival of spring, could have inspired the playful spirit of April Fool's Day. However it got started, April Fool's Day spread around the world. As April Fool's Day spread, different countries developed their own unique traditions and ways of celebrating. While the core idea remains the same, pranks and jokes, each country has its own spin on the celebration. In France, the tradition of playing tricks on April Fools is still alive today. One popular French prank is the Poisson d'Avril, or April fish. Children often tape a paper fish to someone's back without them noticing. It's considered especially funny if the victim doesn't realize until much later in the day. This prank is so ingrained in French culture that many people will even post a picture of a fish on social media to mark the occasion. In the United Kingdom, April Fool's Day is celebrated with a variety of pranks. The tradition of playing jokes is so widespread that newspapers and television stations sometimes participate by publishing fake news stories and airing humorous segments. The Brits also enjoy sending people on fool's errands, directing them to places that don't exist or telling them to pick up items that are out of stock. One of the most famous April Fool's Day pranks in British history occurred in 1957 when the BBC aired a segment showing Swiss farmers harvesting spaghetti from trees. Many viewers believed the prank as it was so well executed. In Scotland, the celebration of April Fool's Day lasts for 2 days. The first day, known as Hunt the Gowk Day, involves playing pranks on people by sending them on pointless tasks. The second day is Taily Day, when pranks are focused specifically on people's behinds. In the past, people would attach signs or jokes to the backsides of unsuspecting individuals, making this day one of the most mischievous of the year. In India, April Fool's Day is widely celebrated, although it's more common in urban areas than in rural ones. People often play practical jokes on friends, families, and coworkers, but the pranks are generally lighthearted and humorous. In some regions, April Fool's Day is known as Kutti prank or Chupke, and it's a day to show off creative and funny tricks. Even in places where April Fool's Day is not traditionally celebrated, the day is slowly gaining popularity, especially through social media and internet culture. Brands and companies have also caught on to the fun, often releasing fake products or announcements to trick their customers. Have you ever wondered why we enjoy playing pranks on April Fool's Day? There's an interesting psychological aspect behind it. Humor and laughter play a big role in making pranks successful. When we trick someone in a harmless way, the surprise element and the release of tension that comes from the prank's revelation triggers laughter and amusement. Psychologists believe that playing tricks on others taps into our natural curiosity and desire for novelty. People love surprises, and when those surprises are lighthearted and unexpected, they elicit positive emotions. Additionally, pranks can create a sense of camaraderie. When everyone is in on the joke, it strengthens social bonds and fosters a sense of shared amusement. At the same time, pranks can be a way to break from the routine and inject some levity into our lives. In today's world where people often face stress from work, school, and personal challenges, a good-natured joke can provide a moment of relief and fun. It reminds us not to take life too seriously and to enjoy the lighter moments. As with any long-standing tradition, April Fool's Day has given birth to some famous pranks throughout history. Some of these pranks were so successful that they remain iconic to this day. As I mentioned already earlier in the video, one of the most well-known pranks occurred in 1957 when the BBC aired a report on their news show, Panorama. The segment showed footage of Swiss farmers supposedly harvesting spaghetti from trees. The report featured images of workers carefully plucking strands of spaghetti from tree branches, and it was presented in such a convincing manner that many viewers were fooled. The segment concluded with the words, "The spaghetti harvest is picking up pace this year." Many viewers called the BBC asking how they could grow their own spaghetti trees, marking it as one of the most successful and famous April Fool's pranks in history. Another famous April Fool's prank was the Taco Liberty Bell stunt pulled by Taco Bell in 1996. The fast food chain announced that it had purchased the Liberty Bell and was renaming it the Taco Liberty Bell. The news made headlines and many people were shocked by the announcement. However, later that day, Taco Bell revealed that it was, of course, an April Fool's joke. The prank gained widespread attention and became a classic example of how companies can engage humor to engage with their customers. In 2016, Google took the prank to another level by releasing a feature called Google Knows. This fake service supposedly allowed users to search for scents just as they would search for images or other information online. People were encouraged to smell various scents through their computer or phone. While the concept was entirely fictional, the ad was so well produced that many people believed it. Before we wrap up, here are some fun and interesting facts about April Fool's Days. But before we learn about them, please make sure to like this video if you are enjoying it. Please consider subscribing to my channel and let me know in the comments if you have ever played an April Fool's Day joke and how it went. I will tell you all about my April Fool's Day disaster at the end of this video. Now, on to some fun facts. In the United States, the tradition of playing pranks on April 1st dates back to the 18th century, and many early pranks were played in newspapers and on the stage. The Guinness Book of World Records official longest April Fool's Day joke was 14 hours long, organized by a prankster in the UK. The prank involved a fake live radio broadcast that made listeners believe they were witnessing a UFO sighting. In 2008, Google introduced a fake product called Google Gulp, which claimed to be a drinkable search engine. April Fool's Day is celebrated differently in various countries. For example, in Italy, people traditionally celebrate by playing tricks on their friends, and in Belgium, jokes are commonly centered around absurd stories. In France, it's considered bad luck to be the victim of a prank on April 1st. If you're the one who gets tricked, you're called an April fish. Now, let me tell you a little story about why I don't really do April Fool's Day jokes anymore. When I was younger, I used to get a lot of fun out of planning elaborate jokes for April Fools. However, that all changed when I became a teacher. I decided to play a prank on my students by telling them that they were going to be taking Spanish class as specials from now on. I even gave them a little mini lesson and I assigned them homework. Though I would have loved to add another language, the kids at that school were already learning English, Chinese, and German. Some of them were excited about the prospect of adding another language, while others were wondering how they would fit in another language. This was towards the end of the day, so I decided that I was going to tell them at dismissal that it was an April Fool's joke. However, the prank went horribly wrong when I got distracted by something, and then I completely forgot to tell them that it was a joke. After the last kid left the room, I suddenly remembered, and I had to hurriedly send emails to parents telling them that the kids did not have to do the homework and that it was just an April Fool's Day joke. 2 kids did end up completing the homework, so I gave them some extra credit points, and I got extremely lucky that none of the parents complained. Mistakes are a part of life, and they teach us things. I learned a few things from this mistake. One is to always immediately say if something is a joke, because I do tend to get distracted. The second thing I learned was that the disappointment that some of the kids felt after learning that they would not get Spanish, and the stress, no matter how minor, that other kids felt at the prospect of balancing another language was not worth the joke. A joke is only truly funny if it is entertaining to all parties involved and does not hurt anyone. While I certainly didn't intend to hurt anyone, I do think I did not properly think through that joke, and now I just don't do April Fool's Day jokes with my students anymore. However, I am still the victim of them sometimes. April Fool's Day is a fun and lighthearted celebration that has brought joy, laughter, and a little bit of harmless mischief to people for centuries. From its uncertain origins to its widespread popularity today, the day has become a global tradition that encourages creativity, surprises, and humor. Whether it's pulling off a prank on a friend, watching a funny joke unfold, or laughing at a clever advertisement, April Fool's Day reminds us that sometimes it's good to take a break from the ordinary and enjoy a little fun. Thank you for joining me on this journey to explore the history, traditions, and psychology behind April Fool's Day. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more educational content. Teachers and homeschooling parents, if you're teaching about April Fool's Day, be sure to check out the link in the description for educational resources to make learning fun and engaging while making your prep time easy. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to get messy and make lots of mistakes today. Bye!